lost David Snyder this week, and it was a shock for everyone that knew David. David was someone that it was easy to become a friend of his. He was always so helpful. He helped on every candidate's campaign in the area that I know of. He helped me. He helped Holly. He helped Joanna. He helped Sharon Gerard. And he was just so knowledgeable on so many things and involved in so many different aspects of not only government, but helping people and helping make lives better across Pinell County. So is Lisa Fitzgibbons on with us? I don't see her yet. So I'd like to start out with a moment of silence as we reflect. Most of us had a personal memory of David, but we're going to have a couple of photos and a moment of silence. Thank you. So is Lisa on?
I'm here.
Okay. So I've asked Lisa, and she'll probably join us in a bit, and Dale to talk just a bit about some of the memories they have and experiences with David here in Casa Grande. Dale, go ahead.
I met David 16 years ago. He was part of the Casa Grande Dems 6 generations ago, many clubs ago. One of our first conversations concerned building superstition vistas. And David's concern at that time was superstition vistas has no water. So we'll have to take water from someone else's water to populate superstition vistas to house 1 million people. So over the years, David and I had many conversations about water shortages. He was a big picture guy. He seemed to understand things in a macroeconomic way. Most recently, I had lunch with David. I had seen there was an opening on the water board, and I asked David some questions about the water board. And so we met for lunch, and we talked about this position and what it would require and so forth. And then he said, you know, that's my position you're wanting to take. I didn't want to take his job. I wanted to join him in his effort to manage water for Pinell County. So that was the generous David that I knew. Generous with his help, even to the point of helping someone replace him. And I will always remember David as a mentor and a very generous person.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dale. I know everybody's got a lot of memories and comments. We'll do one more. Joanna, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ralph. I think most people didn't know that David and I were really close. He was a mentor of mine, one of the few people that really welcomed me back into the community when I first came back to Pinell County after serving in the military, and missing that sense of community and family. And he would say, "Come here, kiddo. You need to get involved in this, or you need to do that." And he was just someone that was always willing to help and never asked anything in return. He was truly someone who was about community, about servant leadership, and I miss him dearly. I jokingly used to call him Professor X from the X-Men because he was so wise. So I just wanted to share those few things with you all, and that's it.
Thank you. So I just wanted to share a brief, I called Marilyn to tell her that we were doing this. She did not feel up to being with us tonight, and I can understand that. She's devastated. But she wanted to let all of us know how much she honors the work that we are doing with the Democrats at Casa Grande. She expects to get through her period of grief and join us again and work with us to continue Dave's legacy of working on behalf of the working families in Pinal County. So we've got her in our hearts, and she'll be with us again when she's feeling like she's ready to. So thanks, everybody. All right, the next order of business on the agenda is the election. According to the Democrats at Casa Grande bylaws, we have 4 elected positions: chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary, and we rotate every year so that it's a 2-year term for each. And this year, the 2 offices that are up for election for a 2-year term are chair and secretary. So for this part of the meeting, I am gonna turn the meeting over to our vice chair, Keith Seaman.
Okay, thank you. This is, I've been vice chair now for a couple of years. The only thing I've had to do, because Ralph's been a very good chair. But anyway, do we have any nominations for chair of the club?
I nominate Ralph Atchu.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Ralph, I assume you're okay with that?
Yes.
You accept that? Okay. Now, as I understand the Democratic rules, we have to have 3 time to do this. Any other?
We need a second
I'm
first.
sorry, you're right. A second for that.
Can I second?
Okay, is someone taking notes, right?
I am.
Oh, okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded that Ralph be nominated for
Gail's.
chair. Okay, second time, any other nominations from the floor for chair? Okay, is third, any other nominations for chair? Okay, being done, then Ralph actually has been nominated for chair. Since he's the only one, do I hear a motion for acclamation for Ralph Atchu for chair?
Yes, I motion that we,
I'm sorry, who did that?
Pat.
Pat, okay, Pat, okay.
we seconded.
Okay, do we have to?
No, you don't have to vote. You don't have to vote.
Okay, so
No.
automatically then, Ralph, congratulations, you're chair of the Casa Grande Dems again, yay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll do it, David does, right. Okay, I'm done with my part, thanks.
All right, thank you, Keith. So now we will have an election for secretary. So the floor is open for nominations for secretary of Democrats of Casa Grande.
I nominate Gail Reck.
All right.
I
Pat
second.
Ashley nominates Gail Reck. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. And Gail, do you accept the nomination?
Gail does accept.
Okay.
She's unavailable at the time.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Are there any other nominations for secretary? Are there any other nominations for secretary? Okay, so with no more nominations for secretary, we don't need to do a motion. We will accept Gail Reck as reelected for secretary of the Democrats of Casa Grande. All right, thank you, Gail. All right, so Tom's now, is Tom on yet? Okay, so we'll wait for Tom to come on. And Stephanie, do you have an update for us on redistricting?
Not much, unfortunately.
Okay.
Apparently they are delayed until April 30th at the earliest because of the census delay. And of course, I think everybody's up to date that the independent chairperson was chosen, and there's some concern there since she has a history of donations to Doug Ducey. I have to be polite when I say his name in the meetings. So there are some concerns there, but not much is moving right now. There's a third group. I signed up for the training that you sent out, Ralph, for the rural Arizona voters. So I signed up for that. I've done the League of Women Voters, and the Arizona Democrats, just to see what each was offering. And I do highly recommend the Arizona Democrats training on it. They really do keep it to an hour. It gives a great overview. And I believe there's still some signups available. Alexa, stop. So nothing new yet.
Okay.
Oh, and civic engagement on Beyond Voting is also following redistricting. So we've got several groups kind of tracking it.
Okay.
Right.
So if there's anyone that is interested in signing up for a training, when is that training, Stephanie?
They have several listed for, I think the newest ones are on the weekends, but they have several coming up, and I don't know if the February ones are listed yet.
Okay. So rather than send it out to everybody, if you're interested in that, if you could send an email to the Democrats of Casa Grande at gmail.com, let me know that you are interested in that training, and I'll send you the listing of all of the trainings that are available. And thanks to Stephanie, she's been staying on top of all of this for us and keeping us updated. So I'm sure she'll continue to do that each time. Thank you, Stephanie. It's a nice job you've done with that. So next, we're going a little out of order from the agenda, but Roger Olson has spoken to us before about community outreach. And so what we're talking about here is how the Democrats of Casa Grande can expand our base, can reach out into the grassroots, can connect with different organizations, different communities. And what I want to say is, as Roger is speaking, Betty, do we have a hands up thing that people can do, or raise hands? Debbie, if you can, and Betty, if you can help, whoever puts their hand, raise their hand or a thumbs up, record who that is. We're going to set up a separate Zoom in a week or so for people that want to work on this. These meetings that we have once a month, these Zoom meetings, are more informational. They're not where the sausage is made. They're not where work is done and where we yell at each other behind the scenes. So what we're going to do is, if you want to be part of this, we'll call it an action committee. But if you want to be part of planning and being active in this, give a thumbs up, a raised hand, whatever. We'll write you down. And when we do the Zoom for this committee meeting, we'll make sure you're included and take part in it. So, Roger?
Well, as you know, the 2020 election results were a mixed bag for the Democrats in Arizona. Biden and Kelly won the state. But here in Pinal County, we fared pretty poorly. Even Tom O'Halloran had a difficult time in our county here. So it's important for us to continue our efforts to register voters and support our candidates. I think what we also need to do is add one more element to our efforts. And I think that in our county here, there are probably between 10 and 20% Republican and voters in our country, in our county, that could be persuaded to vote Democratic. And if we can do that, that's enough to turn our county blue. Excuse me, somebody is unmuted. Could you mute everybody? I'm getting feedback here.
But Roger, could you stay that close to the
Anyway,
mic? Because you're cutting in and out.
As I was saying, I think in our county, there's probably between 10 to 20% of the registered Republican and independent voters that could be persuaded to vote Democratic. And that would be enough, I think, to turn our county blue. So what we're proposing to do is to create a community outreach program to work with partners in the community on projects that will better the lives of our citizens. There's a lot of potential partners we could partner up with here. For instance, local school districts, veterans groups, and even advocacy groups such as groups wanting to reform immigration. There's going to be a lot of benefits if we can do this. The first and foremost of the benefits would be that we would be improving the lives of some of our citizens in our city here. This effort also would give our own group a greater sense of purpose, I believe, and it would raise our profile in the community, so we would have an opportunity to attract more members. And then there are the political benefits. Community partners that we partner with here who understand the lives of their constituents and can see that we as Democrats are truly interested in their welfare are more likely to want to work with us to persuade people to register voters and to help elect our candidates. So while we have limited resources in our group here, we do have to choose carefully who we partner with. And so that was what Ralph was saying earlier. We'll have a Zoom meeting to discuss how we should go forward. And we have about 20 months roughly until the midterm elections. So let's get busy and turn the county blue. Over to you, Ralph.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, rather than raising hands and all of this, everybody that's on this Zoom tonight, we're going to send you an email, respond and invite you to take part in this committee. Respond to it with your positive answer that you want to be part of this and help us get to work. And then we'll send you the Zoom link. So I think that's the better way to do it rather than trying to get people to use technology. Okay. So I want to mention something. There was back and forth within our leadership group about our logo. And so thanks to Diane Kelvin and Debbie Broom, who did a lot of work on redesigning our logo. The leadership team weighed in on it back and forth and participated, but the real work was done by Diane Kelvin and Debbie Broom. So Betty, can you put up our brand new
Working on it.
logo? Oh, okay.
There we go. Yay.
There it is. So we're gonna be using it on material and swag and business cards and letterheads and things like that. So that will be our new Democrats of Casa Grande logo. Thank you, Betty. And again, thanks to Diane and Debbie for working on that. Tom Bean wanted me to mention, somebody got the Rose Montford cards. Do we know who got those cards from Tom Bean? If it was you, Tom Bean has found more. So he wants to get you the rest of the set. He's got those available. We had a big uptick in our membership. Thank you very much. A lot of people got on the website and joined us. If you haven't done that yet and you want to, memberships are still available. We still have room for memberships, but thanks to those who have taken part and done that. So it is almost 7. Tom's not here yet. I don't think Lisa's with us either. So anybody have something they want to share?
It's Robin's birthday today.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, my wife Pat just informed me it's Robin's birthday today.
Oh
So-
my goodness.
So if we can unmute everybody and light a candle. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday
Dear
Robin,
Happy
Robin,
birthday.
birthday
All
to
right, David Coward has
to
you.
you.
happy birthday, Rob.
That was the worst thing I've ever heard.
It was.
It was fun.
And it's recorded, so you'll get to listen to that over and over again.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was muted. I was muted.
Pat and I always torture our grandkids and kids. We call them up on their birthdays and sing to them, and we're just about as good as we sounded here. So, yeah, Deborah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Roger, if it's okay with you, I did put in the chat, but Roger Olson and I are getting off the ground a Democratic Club at Robeson Ranch. Long overdue, and we have over 30 people on the list so far, and I keep getting more names every day. So we're going to get things rolling. We can't do too much during the pandemic, but we'll be ready to rock and roll. And Roger also has talked about doing community outreach in Eloy through that group. So in any case, we're excited about that, and we're going to get it rolling.
Good. Anything that we can do to help get that up and running, to help you get that going, let us know. We're here to help.
Thank you, Ralph.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions or comments? If no one does, so I want to briefly say that you've probably seen a lot of back and forth about Mark Fincham and his exploits at the Capitol on January 6th, along with Paul Gosar and others. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes still with that. We're going to have more information. There's a new website that's up. I'm going to send that out to everybody. There's a new group taking over most of the management of that. So I will be getting that information out. We're also pushing very hard to get Paul Gosar expelled from the House of Representatives. And Dave Coward, do you have that where I put it on Facebook to sign the petition. Anybody in the country can sign this petition. This isn't, you don't have to live in Gosar's district. And what it's intended to do is generate a lot of petition signatures to put pressure on Congress to expel him. Dave, did you have?
Yeah, I can briefly give you an update on that. Jay Ruby started this up in Yavapai County, and he has a petition with change.org. We've almost got 10,000 signatures so far, and that's key because once we get to 10,000, then change.org sees that as a viable petition, and they will start pushing it nationally. And we need, and we just can't get. We're trying to get 100,000 signatures because it takes a 2/3 vote of Congress to expel someone. So we just can't just do it within our own congressional district. We have to try to influence as many other Congress critters as we can. Grivalda's on board with it already, and we've started working on as many as we can. So if you can sign that petition, that's great. I also sent you, we're also, this week, we're trying to set up a letter writing campaign for Letters the Editor. So if any of your super letter writers down there could get something in your local papers, again, we want to spread this as wide as we can to get the coverage. So that's what we're doing to try to get Gosar out.
Okay, great. And again, you do not have to live in Paul Gosar's district. So Dave, if you send me that again, I know I had it, but we'll send it out. We'll blast it out to our email list and get it back up on Facebook and on our website.
What about Andy Biggs?
So
well, I could talk to that. We approached Joe Green, I think, ran this last time, and she is not interested in pursuing that and doesn't know of anybody in CD5 that is interested. So I don't know, but we in Gosar's district are adamant about getting them out.
I know there's been a lot. Lori Roberts in the Arizona Republic has been really good about blasting Gosar, Biggs, and the Republicans that took part in the insurrection. So it's getting a lot of press. So still no Tom?
I didn't see him registered. Does he enter under another name or?
Yes, he'll be joining under my name. I am Annika.
Okay.
I'm Tom's finance director. And I just texted him. He was planning on joining 2 minutes ago. So I'm sure that his computer is sometimes a little slow, but I will give him a call and try and get him on here as fast as possible.
Okay. In the meantime, Keith, do you have anything to, Keith Brekus, do you have anything you can entertain us with about the Tom's campaign office or anything?
I'm back in his official office, so I can't talk campaign stuff. Annika.
Okay.
But I can say on the official side that he's working on trying to get the vaccine rollouts faster to Arizona. Of course, one member of Congress doesn't have a lot of authority over what the administration or the governor is doing, but it's really important that we get these vaccines rolling in the state of Arizona. And if Annika has any campaign or other updates, I can defer to her if she has something to share.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Annika. Like I said, I'm the finance director for the off year, but I'm also going to be doing some other stuff just to make sure we're prepared for the on year. So Keith is trying to teach me all things Democrat county meetings, these meetings, so I can help out with those. It's gonna be Tom's looking to be his toughest race yet. He won, as you guys probably know, he only won by about 10,000 votes or 3 points. And so we need to start working now, which I know I wanted a longer nap period, but we need to start getting the message out there that he wants to protect and Social Security and Medicare. We need to make sure people know who he is. So this upcoming off year, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. We're going to try and raise more money. We're going to also try and get more letters to the editors out there and do more grassroots work so that we can really get people to understand who Tom is, so that when redistricting does happen, and if Tom's district does become a little bit more competitive, which we're expecting, we already have the groundwork in place. And of course, Tom isn't answering his cell phone. So I have alerted the scheduler and his chief of staff, and we are on the hunt to find him. So
Well, we don't have time yet. So I'm going to say that part of this committee that we're putting together for action, we've got, and I'm going to ask Evelyn to give us some information on this, because we have access to some detailed voter information from the last election from Barb Tellman in LD 8 and LD 11. I believe, or is she only giving us Pima County stuff, Evelyn?
So Barb Tillman was a speaker, and she's a data nerd. She goes through the voter files to look for trends and creates charts and graphs. She was very specific with the group that she was addressing, but she will produce customized charts and graphs for any group that asks for it. So if you want to know, for instance, in Pinal County, how voters and demographics mapped out for the last election, and she'll even compare going back several elections. All you have to do is email her. She'll create the graphs and charts and send them to you so that you can present them to the group that you're interested in. So I'm going to put her email address in the chat.
She does this.
Evelyn,
She does this for free.
Having 30 people, rather than having 30 people email her, I'd rather do it where we, as a group, decide what we want to do and ask her for it in a single shot.
So I was thinking that there might be subsets in this group. For instance, people that live in Casa Grande or in Eloy, or want to look at the entire county, or maybe look at the congressional district, or have it
Okay,
sliced and diced by LD. So Ralph, why don't you collect all those different geographic areas, and then you can send her a request for several different.
Right. I just didn't want her to get 30 emails, saying, give me this, give me. So
Believe me, she doesn't mind. She does this because it's fun for her.
all right. Well, I'll do my best to consolidate the requests. So if you want, if anybody here wants a specific precinct or anything, we'll try and get as much of a cross section so that our area is covered in as much detail as we can get. But if you're looking for a specific precinct, let me know and I'll put in the request to Barb.
Well, Tom update. His wife Pat, if any of you know her, she plays an important role in keeping him on schedule, and she is on his way to get him on this meeting right now.
Okay.
Mm.
Anybody else have?
Ralph, do we have any information about how many African Americans are in Pinal County, or how many Latinos, rather than by precinct, but looking at things, slicing and dicing it that way? Yeah.
I don't know that that's the kind of information that Barb Tillman has, but she's going to have voter turnout by party. I don't think. Go ahead, Evelyn.
So that data is available from the last census. So it's out of date, but it's easily available. I just Googled racial demographics in Pima County, for instance, and I was able to download files that broke out the information by age, race, almost any way you can think of it. So it's readily available. You just have to go and look for it.
Ralph, I have a question on the redistricting. If we're going to see new districts coming out in April or May, any data we get now, how valid is that going to be for the new districts?
So they're, according to what I understand, Stephanie's saying is they will start meeting in April or May, but they'll take months and months to actually come up with approved districts. Stephanie, you want to?
Yeah, they'll draw an initial map and then they'll redraw and redraw and redraw, and then they'll have public meetings where we need to speak up and pay attention, because I'm anticipating, and everybody that has been watching this process is anticipating that the right, or the Republican Party is going to be out in full force to gerrymander and try to manipulate those districts to save seats of power. So I think somebody in the chat had mentioned voter suppression initiatives, and that the redistricting gerrymandering issue is a huge voter suppression technique. So that's why these trainings are important, to help us understand the process and know how to speak up and what to say. And the Arizona Democrats training on that was really helpful, because it makes it easy to understand, and as citizens, as voters, to protect. There's several laws that govern how they are supposed to draw the districts and how they're not supposed to. So if we don't keep on top of them, they will, try to draw them to protect their seats as standing. So, and the other thing I wanted to ask Ralph, if you talked about the request to speak, do we have a lot of people signed up or knowing how to use it? Because there's a lot of crazy bills coming out.
Yes, there are. And so I send out notices, action alerts on bills that come from Civic Engagement, from Secular Coalition, from AEA, Arizona Education Association, from a number of places. And while the session's in session, I bomb you with it. So if you're on request to speak and you want to be updated on all of this stuff. I also send out, part of that is the yellow sheet,
Here's
which
Tom.
is a couple of times a week with a lot of background information on what's going on at the legislature. So if you're on request to speak and you want that, let me know. I'll put you on that list. If you request to speak is your ability to log in from your computer at home and actually give a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment on bills while they are in committee, being considered in committee. So if you're interested in getting more information on that, let me know. Tom is on, so I'm gonna turn it over to Arizona Congressional District 1 Congressman Tom O'Halloran. Take it away, Tom.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Sorry I was detained. I got off a plane and then got caught up in traffic and everything. So that's just the way it goes, I guess, sometimes. Well, there's a lot going on in Washington, as you probably know. First of all, Annika, I don't know if she introduced herself. Is she on? Yeah, good.
I did.
And then Keith, you know, and we're really happy that he's the district director now. But the whole thing about Washington right now is we're trying to get the COVID bill through. It's going to be, I think it's probably, in spite of what you hear on TV, it'll be probably both broken up into at least two parts. I just don't, we have to get it out, and they want to delay, and that would take us until past the middle of March, and we have to help people. So most of that, what will go out first is in that area. Cities, towns, counties, have disagreements there. So, and this is just a sign of how bad things are getting. You know, of course, you had McCarthy go down to Florida today, which is unbelievable. You have McConnell yesterday saying how he doesn't like anything that Biden's doing. You know, they're back on their old stuff, and quite frankly, the only way to stop this is for us to keep working, but also for the American people to speak up. They don't understand anything but the re-election in 2022. They are going to work hard on redistricting. They are going to work hard on fundraising. They're going to work hard on mending fences. And they are going to work very hard to make sure that everybody else in the country, while they're working hard, is going to say, well, they can never make it back. We all thought that we were going to gain seats in the House this time. We lost. And the margin is so thin that we could lose our majority in 2022. So you guys did an outstanding job working for my campaign and the other campaigns. There is no doubt about that. The problem comes around to the realities of politics in America today. And it's sad that adults cannot fully understand and comprehend the needs of people. The American people, you know, all the stuff they've ever said about, well, people on these programs, they don't want to work, they don't want to do this. You know, that's a complete lie. There are people out there with disabilities. There are people out there with problems with inequality in education. There are people out there in all sorts of areas that can't make it in this society very, very well because of the amount of money that they're making today has not kept up with inflation for over 20 years. So that's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is that you know, the corporations are making just record profit right now in a time of national emergency in our country. The amount of taxes they're going to be paying is minimal. And that's because of 2017. We have to do something about that. Can we get that through the Senate? Probably not. And it's not going to be for all of it, but we do have to find a way to shift it so that people on the other end of the income brackets are able to get some benefit out of this. It's going to be critical. The other thing we're addressing, and they're having a little bit of a problem with, is the tax for childcare. And then in general, anything that doesn't deal specifically with COVID vaccine testing and tracing, and they still don't get it that testing and tracing need that much money. And obviously, cities, towns, county, states, I talked about that already. And then they want to take what's left and squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it because people need to prove everything. Well, I would like to have that ability to be able to do that. We don't have that. We don't have the computer systems, whether it's in the federal government or state government, that can work on those things easily. It takes time and more time and more time. So we have to get this stuff out. Hopefully we'll be, and I think the Biden team is coming along to that thought process. We were on with one of their chief people on policy yesterday. Today, yesterday was, I called it COVID day, not because we're catching it. It's just because how many meetings we've had on it in the last few days. I'll go briefly into this whole thing of security in Washington. I mean, you've all heard about what happened on the floor, but I can tell you this. First of all, nobody wants guns on the floor, and there had been guns coming on the floor. That's just irrational. The second thing is that there's a fear amongst a large number of members that their life is in danger. I think a lot of it is posturing by groups, but I also think there's some of it that is directed at getting people out there to make single decisions to do some things that are terrible. Because none of these people are wanting, the leaders of these groups are not out there for the most part going, I'm going to lead this effort to do this to Congress people. But they talk about it and they tell people to do it, not directly. They said, we need to do this and we need to do that. And then obviously under American law, they don't commit a crime about expressing their views because of free speech. But they are very dangerous. And so are a lot of the people that are out there that have bought into this whole process. And so they're reevaluating what security really looks like for Congress and the Congress people that are impacted by it. I think that it's going to be difficult at best to how to protect 435 people. I feel that we're protected pretty well in Washington, but you start going out into a district you live in, you know, and you start to have some real complications come forward. And that's where we're at right now. What does it cost to protect 435 people? Or how do you set up the intelligence network in every state to be able to identify the threat level? The national intelligence people are very concerned. You've heard what you've heard on TV. I can't tell you anymore because I'm not allowed. But the threat level is very high, and we need to find a way for us to make sure that our fellow Congress people are safe, and that they don't feel threatened each and every day they go into work. And the same with each and every day they have a family out there that they're not home, and each and every day that they're in their own homes. And so I just, there's a lot to do back in Washington. The fence concept that just came up, I don't see us putting a fence around the United States Capitol. But I do see us finding a way to have the personnel to be able to address the situation. It's like me. If I go to the Capitol, I either get a cab. I don't have a car in Washington. Even if you did, you still had to go, you have to go through certain streets to get there. And I walk. And when you're walking a mile, or you're walking over to one of the nearby restaurants, I know when I was a police officer, one of the things we made sure we did is to sit in the back of the room with our faces looking at the doorway and something towards our back. There's a lot of restaurants that are near the Capitol that we go to for lunch or for a meeting. These people are going to know where those are at. They know where we live. So that's going to be a problem. But let's get to questions and answers. So I can answer some of your questions if you have time.
Tom, I wonder if you could briefly give us a feel for what it was like on January 6th there on the floor.
Well, for somebody that's been through these things before, not in the United States Capitol, but demonstrations, riots, understanding, planning for those issues, we didn't know what was going on outside. Had no sense of what was going on outside because we were debating on the floor. I, myself, Gallego, Grijalva, and Stanton were the four that were going to get up and talk, and we did. Ours came, Gallego and I were after the attack. Stanton and Grijalva were before, but I'm glad we got back to the floor and did that. But the general thing was, there was a lot of ex-military in the room. There was a lot of officers, police officers. There were not a lot of police. We knew we were in trouble when they said, we have to keep you here for 20 minutes or more. We don't know what's going on out there, but there is gas being dispersed over in the statuary hall. Well, that's less than 200 feet from the door of the chambers. Then right outside the door on one side, shots were being fired, and that's where that woman died. And when we left, you could see where all those people were. Remember where those 3 officers or 4 officers were, and people were trying to get by them to batter down the door? Well, they were being relieved at that point in time by a SWAT team, a tactical team. But if that hadn't occurred, I know they went like this and to the side, there were still people behind them on the other side. Those guys would have been beaten severely. So I'm happy to see them stand their ground as long as they did. And they only did that after we left. They stood their ground for that long. And I had members come up to me, and Gallego was up there telling people how to use gas masks because we had never been told. He and I know, and the military guys know, but everybody else had never been told how to use them. And there was a lot of anxiety in the room. And then you started hearing the doors being pounded and the glass being rattled and, some of it breaking. And by the time we got going with everybody, we gathered towards the front of the room, and then they marched us out, and people were hesitant about going even out in the hallway. So we had to keep nudging people along. And then we had them getting down the stairs, and they thought they could take their time. Well, the room was being taken over right at that time. So we were and the officers kept saying, they're right behind us, they're right behind us. Literally, they were right behind us. And until we got down into the tunnel area, where a lot more tactical officers were, it was a little bit scary for a lot of folks, So it's nothing that you would ever think would happen. You never rule anything out, but it's nothing you would ever hope to have happen at the United States Capitol. And today we should see that the person that's was impeached and is being tried is the person they're going to. to get whatever you call it. I just don't understand that. Their people were at risk too. Pence was at risk too. You know, this was not a mob that came in and said, "Oh, we just want to see the building." They wanted to hurt people. They wanted to get to us. And so a number of us, military guys, actually, we stayed to the back of the group because we were short of police officers. And so finally, you had to keep the group moving. People were just not in a hurry to understand that you had to get out of there. I think they were afraid of the unknown later on. What's going to happen when we get out of this stairwell? And so you kept telling them, it was 3 stories down. You had to keep telling them, you have to, don't worry about it. They're going to protect us. And they did. But the unknown is terrible in those situations. So then I got back to the office after we went back to the floor. We gave our speeches. Arizona and Pennsylvania were voted on, went back to the office. That's the first time I saw what was happening outside. And it took me 3 seconds to fully understand, because I'd worked in planning issues like this, that the leadership that put this whole thing together didn't know what they were doing. The officers were ill-equipped. They were spread out too far. There were not enough of them for a building that size and the grounds that were that size. I could go on and on. I gave my information to the people that are looking at this, but it was not anything that any other department would want to see and say we did our job, and they didn't, and that's why people have been fired. And we brought in some great people that I hope do the job. There's a lot of members that are also having to, as it was made public, they do have therapists for staff, and 2 of my staff members were in an office for 2.5 hours with the lights out, the drapes drawn. That's what they were told to do, and barricaded, because they didn't have enough officers to protect the office buildings. So, and they couldn't get the people out of it. So it was a bad situation.
Tom, Marty Baca has a question.
Yeah.
I'll read it to you. She put it in the chat. What are your thoughts on expelling those that took part in the insurrection, those who incited the insurrection, and a member of QAnon that are members of Congress?
There's investigations going on. If we have the facts to be able to get them out of there, I think we'll do that. I hope we do that. It has to be tied to something that's provable. And what you say before you go to Congress, in the case of Green, who also has said she's brought weapons onto the floor, but that was before we put magnetometers at the doorways. We did that because of people bringing guns onto the floor. But, you know, we need to find out what groups of people are involved with. You know, we need to find out what Mr. Gosar is all about, Mr. Biggs.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to fully understand. I mean, in the past, you know, they were way to the right, but at least they didn't try to cause what occurred that day. And they usually didn't. They either made the truth seem like it's the truth, or they lied in a way that on issues that you couldn't get them very easily. But what they did for this is just, one's an attorney, he should know better. And the other guy, he's been so vocal on all these types of issues and has been not afraid. XR, they're looking into it. The ethics committee will do that.
Tom, do they know which members actually had guests on tours the day before? We've seen a lot on the news that several members did that. Do they know which members participated in those?
I would think they would. They haven't told the rest of us. There's a lot. The flow of information is less than most people would like to see, but in criminal investigations, that happens a lot.
Good.
Any other questions for Tom? Unmute yourself and
Speak up.
I have a question.
yeah, Debbie.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed in watching everything on television was that all the pictures and coverage was coming from people's postings and from the media. Does the Capitol not have its own security system with cameras all over the place to protect you guys?
We do.
And well, is that being used then to determine who was
Part of every investigation. It's just that one's in the public domain and the other one's to build up cases.
Well,
And
thank you.
you don't want to get the other side knowing what you're doing.
Okay, so there were people then seeing what was going on. Are there remote locations where, I mean, it could have been made known to the Pentagon or whoever could have helped out to be able to see what was going on there so that they didn't have to be in place?
Usually, and there were officers that were available taking pictures from in front of the crowds as they came. So those pictures, but that for us, that's evidence. For people that put something on the social media, for them, they're just going, see what I was able to take a picture of and stuff like that. There's a lot better pictures than you've seen, and the FBI is appropriate.
Oops.
Going to have to go after.
Oh, great. So there are pictures. I mean, there are surveillance cameras all over the inside, so they should be able to know who got the tour the day before then.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yay. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
I have a question.
I have a question as directly on expulsion as to what is actually the process to expel a member of the House, because I understand under the Constitution, each House and the Senate are responsible for their own membership, but to expel someone, is it just is it a 2/3 vote? Is it a 50% vote, or what's the process?
Well, first of all, there is a vote. Secondly, I don't know what the vote is. We'll let you know as soon as we can. But there is a vote required to expel a member.
It's a 2/3 vote.
2/3. There we go.
From,
David,
from
thank you.
the 14th Amendment. It's part of the 14th
Yeah, I would think
Amendment.
so, but yeah.
I know there's a Supreme Court case involving Adam Clayton Powell, who was expelled, and the court ruled that the process was illegal and unconstitutional. And he was reinstated, but the specifics of it, I don't.
And I don't know what that is either. It's just like the 2/3 we just talked about. Until it's going to be real, I got plenty of other things to do than to be worried about it, the particulars of how I'm going to have to vote.
Marty,
This is more than a year down the road that we're going to start having the evidence necessary.
Go ahead, Marty.
I have a couple of questions. One, and this is a statement, but because it came to me, when people were under desks and locked doors and in the dark, please remember that our children, when they go back to school, have had to go through this. So hopefully people in Washington will finally have good, solid gun reform so our children don't have to hide like that. It was bad enough for adults to go through this, but can you imagine children? All right, now I'll get off my soapbox. I want to know how you feel about the filibuster. And do you have any concerns about people in these crazy things like QAnon being in like the Capitol Police or the police force, National Guard, because they are the people that are supposed to be protecting us. And if they've got a screw loose, it kind of is worrisome, I would think.
Well, right now, I don't think there's the votes for doing away with the filibuster. I think part of that is going to have to be to see if we can get some of these important bills through and then take another look at their cooperation level. I think there has to be a lot of discussion on what that means to us when we're not in the majority and what do we then not have the ability to stop going through the Senate? That's part of the filibuster process, is to slow that down and recognize some of the important issues. Some of it's just plain, most of it is political. I mean, if you don't know the issue by the time it gets to the floor, you and your staff aren't doing the work.
Yeah.
And if you have an amendment, get it out there. But a lot of it is to save people from voting on things that they don't want to vote on. I have been
Is that
and
Tom's
statements are made. Well, we are leadership is not going to allow that to go to the floor because we don't want our people to have to take a hard vote. Well, guess what? We're there for hard votes. That's what you pay us for. And when people aren't doing that because they're afraid to take a vote, then go find somewhere else to retire.
Tom, I have a question for you.
What about the having people like in QAnon that are part of the military and or police or whatever?
I think QAnon's, you know, what we see in the press, I mean, there's obviously some bad actors in that. I don't know that it's been identified as a group like the KKK or some of the others that have a history. This is a new group. I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine there'll be a lot of discussion on identifying. We know who their major leaders are, but what that organizational structure looks like, how they do their marketing program, which is very sophisticated, how they do their outreach to find more and more members. They're very good at that. It's some of the stuff that you hear is not illegal, as long as they don't take more action. So if they start telling members to go kill them planet, that's one thing. If they're amassing a bunch of explosives as an organization, any organization, then that's another issue that you have to concern about. I believe that I was shocked to see that our military had to move so many guys and women. I don't know if there was a woman involved, but away from being able to serve at the Capitol after that because of their association with different groups. When you're in the military, you know, that's a whole nother, military law is a whole nother area that you have to abide by, and it's much stricter than ours. And so this is going to be, I think we're going to be discussing how to address these issues definitely for the rest of this year. As the speaker said today, that building, to protect our other buildings, to protect the members. I've had my own problems. I mean, I can walk away a block from that building and never see a police officer from the Capitol Police because they're all close to the building. Well, that neighborhood's full of Congress people. And now they've said, a week ago, they said, we're going to try to target you if you're going from your apartment or home to the Capitol. And, you know, I don't know what the intelligence units are doing about that. We get briefings every so often, but again, it's like a military briefing that we get. We're told a little bit because when you have 435 people, sadly, word gets out on what we've been told. So we have to be very cautious on that.
So we'll take one more question. Noel, I think you said you had one?
Yes. You know, Tom, I think one of the reasons that people don't trust government anymore, a lot of folks anyway, is because of the archaic rules that are in place in so many instances. Down the road, is there some way that we can start to get rid of some of these things, like following agrarian travel times that causes us to vote on Tuesdays and that huge time period between the election and the certification, the power sharing thing that's going on in the Senate, the Electoral College, all these archaic rules that people don't understand, don't like, that just aren't in tune with the times. Is there any way to start chipping away at those?
Well, you saw what just happened in the stock market with this this technology, not technology company, but with this company that was a dollar company. I mean, it was nothing, and all of a sudden they jazzed it up online, and all these people said, "Well, we don't want it to go away. Let's make sure it is," and they just kept throwing money in there, and it wasn't that much money on a stock market, but it drove the price up through the roof, and those are the things that we have to think about on what's happening out there to get people. There's no standards anymore for the press, for social media, for anything. There's just no standards. There used to be. Some of the things that you just said, we need to review those. Why is it that the Electoral College is important in 2021? I was against the Electoral College in 1980. So but I'm hopeful that more people, we're talking about it more. So that means more people are going to look into it more. I don't think right now it's going to be based on what's going on in our country.
Right.
It's going to be a high priority. I think the academics have to take a look at it and other people that have some time on their hands. But a lot of this stuff is going to be problematic. The filibuster, it was mentioned earlier, you have to be very cautious on the filibuster because that is the one roadblock that somebody can put in place that leadership can't necessarily easily get out of. And there's a lot of, both parties do it, there's a lot of stuff that comes to the floor that hasn't gone through regular order. Big bills. And it comes from the top and goes down and then we get told, some people pay attention to it, some people don't. I usually pay attention to the bill and not what how somebody tells me to vote. But leadership likes to be able to say to people, we don't want any no votes on this. And that's wrong. First of all, they shouldn't do the bill and bring it to us. We should do the bill and bring it to them. They can make the decision whether they want it to go to the floor, if they want an amendment, what the Rules Committee amendments should do. They have tons of opportunity to correct the bill. But as soon as it comes from the top down, the voice of the representatives of government are they're cut by 80%. That's archaic.
Yeah.
That's all about power. And it gets back to that issue about being people saying we're stopping this bill because I don't want my people voting on it. It has nothing to do with public policy. And it's not like the public doesn't know that because it's every day on the press right now. Well, they don't like that bill because it's a hard one to vote on. Well, I don't know where they came from, but you don't go there. And if you're there, don't stay if all you're thinking about when you're voting is your next election or the party's power. Parties are important. The values relating to those parties are important. But it's also important to understand that what's occurring in our country is not fear of government. It's people are mad about their government. And we have to show them, first of all, I think we're going to do a lot of good things for people. That's important. Secondly, though, we have to, if we're leaders, we have to lead by example. And that means you have to make hard decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have reached the time where we have to start thinking about closing up. Tom, somebody, Debbie Burdett, expressed it, and I'm going to express it for everybody. We are very concerned with your safety. You're our guy there in the House of Representatives. You've been doing a great job for us. We need to keep you healthy, safe, and engaged for us. We appreciate all you've done. and it is a tough job. You have a tightrope to walk. We know that. I don't think we could have a better representative from CD1 working for us every day in the House of Representatives.
Well, I appreciate that. I will say this, every time I left the door to go to work when I was a police officer, I felt a higher threat level than I do now. I'll say this, they're going to look as hard as they can to make sure we're protected. They're not going to be able to protect us like a president or a vice president or the Speaker of the House, but they're going to have to do a lot more work. And you know, the easier targets are our families. And that's where I think most of us are much more concerned about our family safety. I mean, there was a guy on the 9th of December, he had threatened to kill me in mid-December. Then he left the country. And now he came back on the 9th of December, and as soon as he came off the plane, they arrested him. And, you know, we've had police protection at the house for a while now, even before December 6th. And I'm in Chicago today because this is where Pat's at right now. I'm not going to have her out there alone.
Yeah. And you probably have about 6 inches of snow on the ground.
Well, it's not as bad as you think it is. I'll tell you what, it's not 26 like Flagstaff.
Thank you, Tom, for being with us.
Thanks a lot.
The main takeaway for everybody, for all of us, is we need to stay engaged. We need to stay alert. Keep up with what's going on, not just by watching MSNBC, but the newsletters. Join our action committee. We're going to send out an email inviting everybody to do that. We're going to stay engaged with Stephanie on what's going on with redistricting. I want everybody that wants to be involved with requests to speak. If you don't know what it is, send me an email. I'll get you updated on what that is. Stay engaged. You know, we had a big election. It wore us all out. Our democracy is still at risk. Our country is still at risk. There is no doubt about that. The Democratic agenda is something that we need to get in touch with representatives, our senators. We need to get the word out that we as citizens want that Democratic agenda put in place. And the only way to do that is to stay connected, stay engaged, and stay active. So thanks everybody for tonight. Thank you, Tom. Thanks all the speakers. Keep David Snyder's family in your thoughts and prayers.
Okay.
Marilyn Ridgway, send her a card, send her a hug on an email, whatever. But our thoughts and prayers go to David Snyder's family.
And it broke my heart. I've known David for a long time.
Yeah, I know you did, Tom. So thanks everybody, and we'll stay in touch.
Bye now.
Thanks.